no country wants to, get yeah, no country wants to. Sorry, somehow I went out of the class. I don't know if we're still there. So apart from the systems theory, we can also talk about the punctuated equilibrium theory. I don't know whether we had discussed that in the past, but policies remain stable for long periods, interrupted by significant shifts due to external shocks or internal pressure. So sometimes the punctuated equilibrium theory, basically by Baumgartner and Jones, is advising that policies remain stable for a long time periods, interrupted by significant shifts due to external shocks or internal pressures. So sometimes you may have, some external shocks which can affect, policy, but most policies remain stable for a long time. Or sometimes there could be some internal pressures. For instance, now all the plea and all the ideas for the president to recount, retrace his steps, particularly with this petroleum subsidy thing, even though indirectly we have been told that they still pay, the subsidy. But I think they are more interested in the money, the quantum of funds they are getting than, maybe to address these problems. The pressure may be on the people now, but when the people now direct the pressure against them, they may not find anywhere to go and hide. And that may bring a policy somersault again that will be, some people may decide to say, look, these things we need to change. And therefore the changes will come unexpectedly, either from inside or from outside. Anyway, anyone can. But however, it is useful understanding policy change over time, because some policies remain, the way they are for a very long time. But they may change because of external pressure. For instance, if you take the coronavirus period, this was a period when there was an external pressure, that came into the country as a result of this pandemic, which virtually restricted movement globally. You can't go to anywhere, you have to remain where you are. And then that actually affected even work itself. Work. It's not everybody that was allowed to go to work, that there will be no crowding. Even, places of worship, they say you can't go in large number. You must have, some restrictions. Not more than 50 people, not all sorts of things were brought in. So that, after you have practiced your policy for a very long time without any form of interruption, now because of the changes, that you have globally, it has to bring some, you also have to adjust, your policy. Then you also take, for instance, sometimes the pressure could be from inside. It could be from inside. For instance, we talk about the NSAS movement. After tolerating police brutality for such a very long time, they decided that no, The youth said no, they can't just be arresting them anyhow on the road simply because of the way they are dressed or because they plaited their hair or whatever it is, or they're wearing short knickers and singlet. So they cannot just accept that. Organize a protest virtually all around the country, and that has some impact, which on the basis of which the government is about to change its policies by reforming the SARS department into a modern outfit. Now they said they should not be harassing people, they should not be doing a lot of things. So that has brought some changes. I think we have also discussed in that some of the classes well initially advocacy coalition framework, advocacy by Subalter. Subalter emphasizes the role of coalitions with shared beliefs in shaping long-term policy. That there are coalitions that can come with shared beliefs in shaping long-term policy. So all sorts of coalitions can be formed, against, a policy issue. So people can form a coalition to ask, for certain things to be done. Either in education sector, we have seen, for instance, recently when JAM conducted exam, and then majority of the students, the exam, students that took the exam failed, and most of them are saying no, they cannot fail. They read very well. They are supposed to have passed this exam. That led to some kind of audit, and then eventually JAM discovered that yes, their systems were compromised, and then they now took some remedial, measures. Even though, sometimes instead of all these remedial measures, probably they are taking, the expectation from a lot of citizens is that when you recognize that you have made a mistake, resign. But in Africa, in most third world countries, black African countries, people don't resign from the office. I remember there was an Egyptian minister of transport, and there was a railway accident in his country. He resigned from that because some people were killed. He resigned from that. He was not a train driver. He was not a trainer, but he resigned because he felt he has to take responsibility. But in most of our own society, we cannot take responsibility. We are just, we should die we believe that we should die in the office. If we don't die in that office, no, it's not, it means you are not really yes, anybody, Gertrude, you want to say something? You can go ahead if you want to say something. Gertrude. Is it Gertrude? I can say a hand up. So I say, if you want to talk, you on your mic, and then you can say what you want to say. Okay. Maybe when you are ready, then you can tell us you are ready. We can allow you to talk. So the Advocates Coalition Framework is useful for complex issues like climate change or educational reform. So you can have a lot of coalition of groups who may come together to ask for reform of a sector, because of the maybe failures that have been noticed or the lack of progress in that sector. There's also institutionalism as a theory. Institutionalism. And institutionalism as a theory, first is that it examines how historical paths and institutional legacies influence policy. Because most institutions, they look at their past history and look at, where they are coming from. And that influences the kind of policies that are made in that organization. You also have what we refer to as new institutionalism, which focuses on formal/informal rules shaping policy behavior. What are the formal and informal rules that are shaping policy behavior? So we have such such formal and informal rule. So focus on them. They have also institutional rational choice, that is combines rational actor assumptions with institutional constraints. So all these are some of the theories. There could be more of them. There's no limitation to what you can also discover when you go and read about some of these theories. There could be some we have left out. You can also read about them, and then what is sure is that you will be asked to identify 2 public policy theories and discuss them. And the discussion is expected that you mention the strengths and the weaknesses of the theories and where they can be applied. So any question on any of this before we move to the other one, which is the key governance theories? So any question? No question. Then we'll look at the key governance theories, and the first one to look at, and which I'm sure most of you will remember easily, is good governance theory. Good governance itself. And good governance talk about how you promote transparency, accountability, rule of law, responsiveness, participation, efficiency, equity, all those things. How do you promote them so that you can have the result being good governance? So it focuses on ethical administration and service delivery. So good governance focuses on what? Ethical administration. How you administer organization doing the right thing, not doing the wrong thing. And then providing service delivery. So ensuring that citizens get service. Not that you go to office every day and when you are back, you go and come back, you go and come back. What service have you rendered? No service. For instance, I wonder, those ones now going to NEPA office, what service are they really giving at the end of the day? Or those going to Kainji to go and, say that they are, producing energy. So what energy have they produced that cannot go around? So those distributing, what are they distributing? So there are all sorts of challenges. So what service are we getting at the end of the day? No electricity as a service, no good roads as a service, no justice as a service. You go to courts, you are trapped there, it hold you for the number of the years that you want to remain there without any justice. You go to, security, you are not secured. So what are they really doing? Because the primary purpose of government is the protection of lives and property. So what are they really doing? So should they be there being paid 14 million? So I had the senator from Abia saying that they pay him, his total pay is 14 million. And he said that it's not even enough. Meanwhile, they are not able to pay workers 70,000 naira minimum wage. But they want to bribe their voters now, 75,000 for 15 million voters, so that at least if you're able to get 15 million votes with the ones that they can get here and there, they can still cross over. And that's the democracy we're talking about. And we're saying that the worst democracy is better than the best alternative system. So, for instance, the best monarchy. For instance, now you say your own democracy is better than the monarchy in Dubai, and yet you are the one leaving your country to go to Dubai to go and climb, camels that are available here in Katsina. But why are they not going there to climb it? They say that system is bad. Your own system is the best because it's a democracy that is producing nothing, and yet it is better than a monarchy that is producing everything. And yet it's better than a democracy that is considered to be a one-party democracy, but it's not even a one-party democracy, but that has transformed the economy from being a developing country to being one of the most advanced country in the world. You see your own system because the democracy is better than that. I think if they use soap to wash our brains so that we cannot think, I think we need to put up our thinking caps to know that no, that kind of idea can only work where people are not thinking, but where people can think. All that is important is there good governance there? Are they able to promote transparency? Are they able to promote accountability? Are they able to promote the rule of law? In the same monarchical government in Dubai, you go there, commit an offense, within the next 1 week, you're in prison. Now, here in Nigeria is a democracy. People have stolen money since 1999. Up to date, the court system is not able to prosecute them and get them jailed. They are working freely. Rather, it is the innocent that are in prison, and then those that are supposed to be in prison are the ones that are free, going about their normal business as if nothing has happened. So apart from this good governance theory, we also have what is referred to as network governance. Network governance. It recognizes the role of public, private, and civil society actors working together through informal and formal networks. So we talk about network governance, often uses in service delivery, urban planning, and environmental policy. So I know that in network governance, we're talking about the networks that we have between government, between the private sector and civil society, maybe to address a problem so that individuals can get service. service will eventually be provided. Then you also often we say that it is used in service delivery as the network governance, used in service delivery, urban planning, and environmental policy, so that you are able to have, you know, at least some element of governance that produces results for the society, for the people, not governance that doesn't produce result for the people, which is what we have, a governance system that doesn't produce result. All we see is monies every day being voted. Only God knows where the money ends up. But we know that it's ending up in private pockets. Then you have collaborative governance. Collaborative governance has to do with, it involves stakeholders from multiple sectors engaging in collective decision making. So I have a collaborative governance. If, for instance, there's a health issue, you know that health issue will require some funding. So Ministry of Finance will be there. It will require getting some, maybe constructing to involve, maybe getting, some professionals. The Ministry of Health will be there, and maybe some this can be there, and then you may even, get, either local or international, support, either from the World Health Organization or any regional body that is interested in health can also participate. Then you now have civil society groups that are also in that. So they will all collaborate. These are stakeholders on one particular issue. All the stakeholders, including pharmaceutical companies that will be supplying drugs and all that, come together, all of them, and then discuss the issue and then provide useful, solutions. So it is useful in conflict resolution and participatory policy making. So if you want to, make a policy that will affect a particular group, maybe what is going to be more, that will promote some level of acceptability and development within that group, is for them to be involved in processes that will lead to providing, some services that will contribute, to their upliftment. And so therefore, you can involve them, they can participate in the policy making process. And then in conflict resolution, you cannot shave somebody's head in his absence. So therefore, you need to bring all the groups that are, for instance, we were talking, I was saying that, look, you have never had these politicians talk about a coalition against insecurity. And yet insecurity remains one of our major problems. You've never had them talk about coalition against corruption, because they are the same people that are corrupt. And yet these are the ones that want to govern the country. So what are they bringing that is different? Nothing. It's just to chase one group of maybe thieves to be replaced by another group of thieves. So where does that lead us to? Nowhere. They have multi-level governance. That's another governance theory, multi-level governance. And in multi-level governance, you have governance and authority are dispersed across local and international levels. They are common in federal systems and the European Union. So when you have multi-level governance, these are common in federal systems, where you have central government, sub-national governments, and even, local government. So these are multi-level governance, system that operates, in governance. So we should be able to understand all these key governance theories that help us to understand how, policies are made and how they are implemented, and whether or not they will produce any result or they will not produce any result. So that is the discussion on, the theories. And like I told you, I said we can be asked to discuss two theories of public policy, and then you may be asked another question to discuss two governance theories, mentioning the advantages, disadvantages, and where they can be applied. So any question, any worries that you want to clear? Because that one gives us one area. The other one we want to look at now, we'll move to another area, which is looking at contemporary issues in public policy and governance. contemporary issues in public policy and governance. And looking at contemporary issues in public policy and governance, one of the problems we have tried to identify and discuss is corruption and accountability, which are fundamental. Corruption and accountability, they are a major impediment to policy implementation. Corruption and accountability. If people can be able to give account, and if corruption can be reduced to the barest minimum, then we will see progress, we will see development, we will see change. We will not be able to recognize our country in the next 10 years if corruption suddenly disappears and then the leaders are willing to be accountable. They are willing to show, to give account of how much came into the treasury this year, what was it used for? And concretely, you can see this is where the money has gone into, this is what they've used the money for, that's what has been done. Then people will begin to have some hope, that the country is going to be better. And then they may not be running away again from the country to go to, Mali, to go to Cote d'Ivoire and all those places to be maltreated, by, the citizens of those countries. Then apart from that, we also have another contemporary issue in public policy and governance is policy failure and implementation gaps. Policy failure and implementation gaps. What I'm saying is that you can be asked, discuss some of the contemporary issues in public policy and governance. The first one we've just mentioned now is corruption and accountability, and I think you can even be able to get some figures to attach to most of these issues about corruption. Maybe if you look at the corruption perception index of Nigeria, what position are we holding in the corruption perception index, for instance? For you to know how corrupt, are we able to render accounts? For instance, are we able to render accounts? Now, there are several things in Nigeria that are done in a very shoddy way that doesn't tell you that, look, we're a serious set of people. For instance, you have security votes. Governors are given security votes. What are they using the security vote to do? Nobody, and that it cannot be discussed publicly. That is a lie of the first order. How can I lie that openly? Even in the United States, there are a lot of documents that were classified that have now been declassified. Those threats have already gone. Now, who killed JF Kennedy? That document has been declassified, and it's very clear it was a CIA agent that did that assignment. So it was the United States, and that's why I say they talk about democracy. There's nothing democratic about them. They are the ones that raise assassins all over the world to kill leaders that are working in the interest of their people. But any leader that is not working in the interest of people, these ones are the ones that they consider as their friends and the ones that are loyal to them because they are fools. They don't know what they're doing. They're working in the interest of another country, not the interest of their own citizens. So which becomes a problem. So if you are able to give account, then that is very good. Then we'll be able to tell us which areas government, for instance, in Nigeria, since 1960 to date, have been able to sit down and say, look, this year, this is the total amount of money that was collected as revenue. These are the money, this is how they were executed. No government has ever done that. Every year, all they do is just to budget. Now in the budget, you are told that about 4.something trillion is even padded budget, padded trillions. When what was his name, Ningi? When Abdul Ningi mentioned it, they suspended him. He came back and kept quiet. Let them continue. And when so you have policy failure and implementation gaps. That's another fundamental problem with issue in public policy and governance. Policy failure. Why are policies failing? Because the policies are supposed to develop alternatives. They're supposed to look at all the loopholes. For instance, these policy failures and implementation gaps is caused by poor design, inadequate resources, or political resistance. So when you look at the design of the policy may be very poor. Because if you are designing a policy, you must be able to look at because you are creating scenarios. You are creating scenarios and you're looking at alternatives. This policy A, these are the advantages and disadvantages. Policy B, to solve a particular problem, maybe we are talking about poverty. We say policy A, conditional cash transfer. How do we do conditional cash transfer? We say, okay, we'll open a national register. Okay, how do we have numbers of people that are living in any locality that we can know when they are given money, they don't move to another locality so that we don't duplicate the, giving them money in several places where they can change their location. So you look at all the loopholes that can be exploited, in that policy. If you don't look at all the loopholes, then you are allowing for room for people to manipulate it to suit their own interests. We have seen a whole governor of Nasarawa State complain when they said they should go and look for schools because they're going to do school feeding program. And let me start from Obasanjo. Obasanjo told the people, tell us the number of primary schools in your state. So each of the state, knowing that, when they say they should go and bring a number of primary schools, they all inflated the number of their primary schools. Beyond some of the primary schools are just existing on paper. When they now brought the list to Obasanjo said, okay, fine. This is a very good idea. So these are total number of schools you have. It's okay, good. We are going to establish what they call as UBEB, this Universal Basic Education, board. They are going to establish. Federal government is going to establish it, and then federal government is going to give some percentage of the funding, and state governments are supposed to counter-fund, the UBEB, and then based on that, then they can now, get the money to go and execute a project. That is when their eyes became very clear that they thought the federal government would just give them money. Then they have inflated the number of schools beyond what they have, so that the inflated number now, the money will just come to them. That will be in their pocket. The same thing happened with the school feeding program. Nasarawa State, the governor said when they brought the total number of schools to him, he discovered that they've inflated over 200 schools, which money, those schools didn't exist in the state. But the people that were doing the school feeding program in Abuja wanted to also collect that money for themselves. And this is the problem. Anytime there's going to be any statistical and count or anything, all we do is inflate, because we're not ready to know our number, because one group will say we are more than this group in number. How does that help planning? How does it help planning? If they are going to register you now, population census, you say they must register your chicken, your goats, your cow, everything must be registered. How does that help planning for human beings? How does that help? And then why do we give birth at home? We don't give birth in the hospital so that we can take the name of person that's been given birth, so that we know this registration may not even be necessary if people are not given birth in the hospital. Know the number for this year now, total number of people that have been given birth in the hospital, this is the number. Then you begin to plan for them. In 5 years' time, they'll be ready for primary school. So where are the primary schools? They'll be ready for secondary school. Where are the secondary schools? They will go to hospital. Where are the hospitals? They will also be using the roads. So are the roads remaining the way they are, narrow and not being expanded? So you want to plan. When you're not planning, because you don't even have the basic statistics, then it becomes a fundamental problem. And therefore, you see that you cannot understand why we are where we are. So policy failure and implementation gaps are caused by poor design, inadequate resources. Then the resources to even execute the policies is not even there. Or sometimes there's even political resistance. People are resisting it. You take the Almajiri schools constructed by Jonathan, the Northerners refuse. They refuse to accept it. Why should they accept schools constructed by a Christian? Why should they accept schools constructed by an infidel? You see, so some of these beliefs that are not even normal, these are abnormal way of thinking. So, school has been constructed. The malams that are going to teach in those schools are not going to be recruited by Jonathan. They'll be recruited by the state government. The people that are going to go to those schools are going to be from those places. But what he's saying is that let's have a system where they can go and learn both religion and some elements of Western education, so that when they come out, they are rounded. They are grounded both in Islamic and Western education. And that will help them forging ahead in their lives. Instead of allowing them to be almajiris, being used for riots and to be burning people's houses and all that. That is not the way the country will develop. But so sometimes there's political resistance. People resist, a policy. The same thing you find with Niger Delta when they were talking about, resource control, and the Yar'Adua came up with the amnesty program. Some of them laid down their arms, surrendered some of the arms, didn't surrender all, just part of the arms, and then they were a little bit resistant until eventually they agreed. to participate in the amnesty program. Eventually, even a whole NDDC was established. Then you have now a whole Ministry of Niger Delta. And now I think the president has even established this NDDC virtually in all the geopolitical zones. Now you have every zone has its own development commission, and people are asking for the legality or otherwise of of those commissions. He has the powers to establish some of these things. They have calls for better monitoring, evaluation, and adaptive governance. Policy failure and implementation gaps calls for better monitoring, because if you are not monitoring the policy you are implementing so that you can know where there are gaps, then you fill the gaps. Then of course it will eventually lead to failure. That's why sometimes some of these policies fail, because there is no monitoring, there is no evaluation, and there is no adaptive governance system put in place so that you can see that the policy is really being implemented as it should be implemented. Then number 3, citizens' participation and public engagement. That is also a problem. Citizen participation. Most of us understand participation from the Western perspective. And participation in the Western perspective is that you should go out to vote, you should pay your tax, carry out your civic responsibility. This, to the Western world, that's how they define participation. Participate in rallies. If there are going to be rallies, participate in that. If there's going to be a protest, participate in that. If there's going to be election, go and vote. So for them, that is participation. But citizen participation goes beyond those elements. You can participate. You can be consulted if any decision is going to be made. For instance, when the president said we have removed fuel subsidy, he will have consulted the people to know, do you want me to remove fuel subsidy or you don't want? Then people will now guide him. Babangida did that a lot, even as a military head of state. There are several decisions. SAP, when he was going to introduce SAP, he said, let Nigerians debate. And Nigerians debate and said they don't want SAP. He now said, okay, fine. He's not going to introduce SAP, but he's going to introduce the conditionalities, which has to do with privatization, commercialization, and all those policies. And then it started gradually with commercialization. And then we now arrive at privatization. And as it is now, virtually all these politicians have agreed that the way to go is to privatize. While China is saying, no, you people are making a mistake. We have all these companies that operate in your country, CCCC, whatever, are public-owned companies. They are not private entities. They are owned by the government of China. But when they leave China, they operate as private companies, so that they can make money for the government. And so they are everywhere, constructing roads, houses, airports, seaports, everything I can think about, because they have the capacity, to do that. So they've grown, they've improved, when it comes to housing, I think Chinese, their housing, this thing is very modern, very, the architectural designs, very beautiful designs. So citizen participation ensures legitimacy and responsiveness in governance. So if citizens participate in the processes of governance, for instance, if they are consulted and they make their views known, if the government is sensitive enough or responsive enough, it will respond the same way. If citizens say they don't want this, then you don't do what they say they don't want. You do what they want. But the challenges include tokenism, limited capacity for meaningful input. Most times, citizens hardly get the opportunity to participate in governance. They hardly get that opportunity, because a lot of the experts in government believe that they are the experts, the civil society people and the politics. So they are in a class of their own. They think they have the knowledge to do everything. And so most times they don't consult the people. They don't even come close to the people. They just take decisions on behalf of the people. Yes, we know that in modern governance, you cannot engage, everybody cannot participate. But for instance, in the legislature, a room for participation has been created through public hearing. And if they are sincere with their public hearing, for instance, National Assembly, they are supposed to go to all the 6 geopolitical zones and hold public hearing. Not that they will say we're doing public hearing in Abuja. Who will come? It's only the Abuja crowd that may be able to attend. But if they are sincere about their public hearings on any issue, they will take it around the country in all the six geopolitical zones. And in every geopolitical zone, they can decide to go to 2 places or even 3 places to hold the meeting so that they give some chances for people to participate, in governance. That doesn't reduce their rank as members of the House of Rep or even reduce his rank as a governor or reduce his rank or whatever position. But most times we think that, the people don't really matter. Why would you go to them? For what reason? Leave them alone. You just go ahead with your governance. They have also decentralization and local governance, which is also another. It aims to bring government closer to the people. But most times you find that, like in Nigeria, we have serious challenge with our decentralization and local governance. What the governors in the 36 states have done is that they don't want any breathing space for local governments. They don't want it. So they want to control the resources of the local government. That's where they make their money. Every governor wants to control that because that is where he can easily collect money. And then because he has appointed all the chairmen and councillors, and then if they are entitled to 300 million, for instance, or 1 billion as their revenue, monthly revenue, he may end up just giving them 250 million. Then the remaining 70 million, 750 becomes his own. Then he will do that. If he has 44 local governments, that's what he will do. Round the local governments, he collects their money. And sometimes he may even, embark on contracts on their behalf, contracts that are just on paper. They have not been done anywhere. So this is also a big problem for contemporary issues in public policy and governance. That is a big challenge. The issues include uneven capacity, elite capture, and poor coordination. You find that the point I was making about the local governments. The local governments have been captured as the property of the governor. There's no governor in Nigeria that is allowing local governments to breathe. None. Most of them, that is their source of revenue. That's why they become billionaires overnight, because all they need to do is just capture the revenue of the local government, make it their own, and then give the local governments peanuts. That's why they're always the ones winning all the local governments. If there's going to be an election, because they are the ones that go and buy phone. You heard what Wike was saying. He bought phone for everybody. And he's saying it on national television, and that nobody has considered that as an offense. That why should one person be buying phone for? Is that allowed in the law? Where is he getting the money to buy phones for everybody? EFCC is there watching. There is a minister. Nobody can touch him. And we say we want to promote good governance. How? So decentralization and local governance is a big, problem area. And as long as there is no governance at the local government level, just imagine if those funds meant for local government actually reaches the local government. This insecurity we are experiencing virtually in majority of local governments in Nigeria, we won't have it. Because the local government will be booming with activities. There will be local contractors who will be constructing culverts, constructing some little things around. So money will be circulating in those local areas. But if the governor collects everything, he doesn't give them anything, then local government chairman himself is frustrated, councillors are frustrated, they hardly go to their office, So how will you have, peace, in the country? That's why where we are. And then we'll talk about ungoverned spaces. Who is creating the ungoverned spaces? The governor itself doesn't allow those that have the government to govern. He has seized the government, pocketed the government, because he is the one that appointed all the officials. So he has taken over. So that's a big problem. Then you have policy innovation and digital governance, emergence of e-government, AI in policy making, and data-driven decision making. Now we don't make decisions just without data. You need to have data for you to know what kind of decision you're going to make. For instance, now we talk about 133 million, which we believe has increased maybe to 165, 167 million poor people. If you want to remove them out of poverty, I know the government is talking about giving 75,000 naira to about 115 million people. Beginning now, they will be giving 75,000. Meanwhile, the minimum wage is 70,000. They are not able to pay minimum wage, but they want to pay 15 million people 75,000 naira. Some indirect vote buying will start, so that when the election comes, they have a smooth scale. Because some people are being paid 75,000 naira and they're doing no work. And you see, paying people money, just paying them money instead of you to get them engaged, so that they can have a self-sustaining activity or business that they can be running. It could be in a rural area, it could be anywhere, urban center, but that what they are doing is self-sustaining. Then that one is going to contribute to the government. Giving people money That's why the Chinese say, teach a person how to fish, not give him fish. You don't give them fish. That's why they don't, and that's why they've reached where they are now. So now there's the emergence of e-governance. And in e-governance, don't forget that now even revenue of government is collected through a TSA, single treasury account. So now everybody pays money. You generate what they call that thing. They generate some, number, and then you go and pay. So money goes to send. So government should be able to know how much they are collecting. So you have, particularly in those sectors, applications sometimes can also be dropped online. Recruitment can be done online, and people can do a lot of things. JAM, for instance, is administered online. Students go to write exams online, they submit, and then within some few minutes or hours, they get their results. Just that now there's a problem, and that's the problem. Maybe with journalism. Journalists believe that if a man bites a dog, that is no news. But if a dog bites a man, that is no news. But if a man bites a dog, that is news. So what they're looking at is negative. So all the achievements made by the JAM registrar, this singular one that was a problem, is as if he has not even done anything in JAM. That's the way people are looking at it, which is not supposed to be like that. They're supposed to be a little bit sympathetic with him. They are human beings. The only thing is that unlike INEC, that has not told the world what was the glitch, what happened, who are the people responsible. In his own case, he has been able to identify where the glitch occurred and the number of people are affected by the glitch. And even the perpetrators of the glitch are known. And so therefore it's left for the government. Now if the government is serious about sanctioning, then they'll sanction those people. Then what happens to the INEC one? Nobody's talking about it. It has passed. Somebody has won. This kind of spirit have won. I don't know. Look at what Yaradua did. Yaradua was elected massively through rigging. When he came, he himself agreed that this election was rigged, even though he didn't relinquish the position. But he went ahead to say, look, we need to, remove most of these problems. So he set up the OS panel. OS came with several recommendations, some of which have been implemented, some are yet to be implemented. For instance, the issue about, setting up a political party commission and an electoral offenses commission. These ones have not been addressed. The politicians are not interested in this. They don't want to be monitored. Neither are they interested in their thugs being sentenced to jail terms. They are not interested because they themselves is just thuggery that are perpetrating, nothing more. So you have policy innovation and digital governance. That is also a problem area, in public policy and governance. So it raises concern over privacy, cybersecurity, and access. Most of these things about policy innovation and digital governance raises concerns over privacy. Because now you have a lot of cybersecurity problems, including cyberbullying and whatever you have. And then access even to the internet is a problem. In some places, they don't have access to the net. Then you have climate change and sustainability, which is also a problem for governance and public policy. It requires cross-sector policy coordination and long-term planning. For instance, now NIMET may be coming up with weather focus and all that. And some institutions may think it doesn't concern us. That's NIMET business. But the environment will affect eventually everybody because maybe in terms of rainfall pattern, it may change. Then it may come with flooding. And then flooding will affect people who are living particularly on river routes, and then that in itself can bring all sorts of issues. So climate change and sustainability is also so governance challenges include global local linkages. How do you the climate change now? How do you link the global to the local? And then in terms of enforcement, because you're talking about pollution of the air, you're talking about all sorts of things that have caused global warming, which has now changed, the way the weather is and everything. So how do you, connect the global with the local so that you can be able to have, at least some form of coordination with both the global and local. They have also equity, inclusion, and social justice. Equity, inclusion, and social justice. That's also another problem I think we need to look at. And inclusion and equity. The governance must address inequality and ensure policy benefits, particularly for marginalized groups. So inclusion will look particularly into gender, ethnicity, rural-urban divides are key areas of all this inclusion and equity, because in most of the rural areas, for instance, they lack some of the basic things of this life: no clean water, no good roads, no health facilities, no educational facilities, no security. And if with all the funds being generated in the country and the number of communities we say, okay, we have over 100,000, maybe 150,000 communities that are identified staying in these 36 states and the 774 local governments, 100, maybe 50, 70,000 communities. With the funds we are getting, we should be able to provide each community with some level of policing, with some level of health facility, educational facility, and in that way, there's no community that will be left ungoverned. No community will be left ungoverned. But there's no inclusion. Some of these people have been completely removed, from governance. I was telling some people when I visited, where I come from, around Adama, and we look at the village Gerkida, and I wanted to go to my own village. I discovered that once you are leaving Gerkida, there's a gate that shows that once you leave, you're inside. It's like you have entered Zambiza. And I said, why did they do that to us? They will have put the gate maybe ahead of our own village, maybe some little space into the Zambiza forest. But now they put it virtually inside the town, and then they say, if you just live there, because from that point maybe to our village, maybe about 1.5 kilometers, and then they say you're already inside Zambiza, that we are now left to the mercy of those people, and they come every now and then to terrorize our people, kill them. So there's exclusion. So how do you have inclusion? How do you have inclusion of gender, ethnicity, and then rural-urban divides? Because these are key areas of problems of public policy and governance, and most times, most people living in those kind of communities hardly get government attention. So I don't know, maybe we have at least virtually discussed about 3 key areas, so to say. So is there any other area which areas you have interest in? You can tell me your own interest. Maybe that can also be carried along or covered in your. What are the things you think you are very comfortable with? You can mention anyone they are comfortable with. Yes, I can see. Is it Dr. raising his hand? You can go ahead, talk if you want to say anything.
Yes, sir. I thank you for the lecture. We have received very good 3 areas, 3 questions. I don't know if there are more questions so that we can note and focus, sir.
Yes, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I didn't know that even off my line. I was talking to myself. I'm saying that I will s- I will give you the assignments that I initially promised. I was going to send to you that you will submit the assignment maybe a week or 2 weeks after your examination. I don't know how long you want to take it, but I think maybe a week after the exams, you can send soft copies of the assignment to my email so I can grade and submit your results to the office. Is that okay, or there are better suggestions?
That's fine,
A week
sir.
is not.
You know, you are adult learners, and I know that adult learners have so many things to worry about at the same time. That's why I'm asking you all these questions. So that if you don't feel as there are things you are comfortable with, what you have done, so from what you have done, are there things
Sir,
you will want, if you are, that question
sir,
will give you a different.
a week after
Yes.
Salah is not enough for us. I mean, a week after exam is not enough for us because the week after exam is Salah break. Hello?
So a week after for submission of the assignments. By then we will have finished
The
marking the exam.
week
So
after exam
when you
is
send the CA, then we can now I said a week after Salah is okay, right?
yes, sir.
I said okay, no problem. A week after Salah, we now expect that you will send in your assignments so that we can mark them and then add to the examination. So the assignment is over what percentage? What percentage is the exams?
30%. 70% exam. Then the assignment is 30.
Exam 30%. Assignment 30%. Okay, no problem. So I will set some questions for you to pick and write on, and then you send the reply to me. Then that. So for the exams, these three things we have discussed now, I'm assuring you, I'm going to ask them. You need to go and read and get some more details on those. Then I don't know. Is it, how many questions you have been asked? 6 questions, answer 4 or what?
So
I will
we don't
check
know,
previous.
sir.
No problem. I will check previous, questions that I've asked. But I will make sure these three that we just discussed now are asked. That one, there's no doubt about it. And then you can now look for one. If it's 4 questions, then you look for one to
So
ask,
you can,
which I'm sure you should be capable of doing that, right?
sir, you can
Yes,
answer
sir.
so that we can pick three.
No problem. If because it's 70%, which means
Yeah.
maybe you now do, if it's 3, then it means that one question will be over 30, then the remaining 2 will be over 20. So you can be out because I one will take 30%, then these 2 will take 20%. That will make it 70. If that is how I will check let me check this. If it's 4 questions, no problem. If it is 3 questions, no problem. If it's 4 questions, it's just for you to look for one question and add to the ones you are already familiar with. Is that also? And maybe even the questions that you may even see, the fourth one may even be simpler for you to answer. So I don't think there's any problem. I think we will just go along with that. So any worries again? Also have to start preparing for another class that
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.